But my girls and my son, because bad things can happen to young men too,
Yes, it can.
that I'm going to be there throughout your journey, and we're going to do whatever you want to do, and I'm going to support you in any way, and I don't care about being friends, family, with anybody, that they come first. And I feel like with my family and my experience, I did not, our family, I didn't get that. It was more like, nobody don't want to hear it. It's your, and keep your mouth shut.
What happens in this house, stay in this house.
Yeah.
And trauma. Thank you for sharing, Taliah. Thank you so much for sharing. You guys are giving me chills right now, because I'm a social worker and I work with children that have all types of trauma, and trauma is trauma, and I validate everyone's trauma. This is their story, and I'm glad that you guys were able to tell your story. I know we prayed before we came into this circle, and my sister had led us in prayer, and she prayed that the Holy Spirit would move, and we knew that he was here already, and I can already feel him here right now. And I validate both of you guys' story, and I validate your trauma. It's really hard for sometimes, if we don't experience that, to validate how other people feel, because it's something that we haven't experienced. So it's really easy to say like, oh, I don't know how they feel, or I don't know, that's whatever. Maybe you're taking that a little too serious, because I've never felt that. But I want to say this publicly, that I validate both of you guys' feelings, and your stories, they do need to be heard. Both of your stories do need to be heard. And you answered so many of my questions while you were telling us your story, because I was gonna ask you, what is something that you would want to erase from your memory for both of you guys, but I think that's very clear, is like a traumatic experience, a trauma. Like I said, trauma is trauma, and those things, trauma can really affect the rest of your life, as we've heard Taliah shared. It affected all her life, even until now. She may have been able to forgive, and she may not still be harboring those things in her heart, but it's something that she doesn't forget, because it was traumatic to her. And so I think, I don't want to assume, but I think it's fair to assume that that is something that you would want to remove from your memory. It's hurtful, it's very painful, and you don't want to feel that continually. It's just not something that you do want to feel. So thank you for sharing that. I also want to ask you guys both, what is inspiring you to heal? And I know, Taliah, for you, this was like a while ago. This experience was a while ago, but this is a lifelong this is a process of grief and pain and things like that. They come in different waves. Like sometimes we may be okay. The next day we may be like, you know what, this really sucks and I hate being here, or I just want to kill somebody. And that's how the next day it may be perfectly fine, and that's just how grief works. But I want to know what has inspired you guys to heal through these traumatic experience that you guys have faced. Taliah, since you just got finished telling us your story, I want to ask you first, at what point was like the point where you were like, you know what, I really want to heal from this. This is very painful for me, and I may not forget it, and I may not want to forget it, but it's something that I just don't want to hold in my heart anymore. At what point, where was the turning point there for you?
So I would say that my daughter's probably in like middle school age or whatever, just love. And I just felt like my trauma was instilling a lot of fear in my daughters. Just fear. And it was because of my trauma. And I said to myself, like, I have to let that go. Because I'm making them so paranoid, where somebody can genuinely be in their favor, loving them, liking them, but your mom then instilled all of this fear, and that fear was stemmed from my trauma. But I love my kids more than I love myself. And I knew, like, pray and let this go, and let your children know that everybody is not bad. Yes, be weird, but everybody. And I just had to let that go. I had to let that go, so that they could have be healthy and productive, and not walk in fear, looking at every situation like, well, maybe that's a pedophile, because mom said if if this, or maybe that's a pedophile, or you just have all of this abundance of fear instilled in them because of my trauma. So I want my kids to be healthy. I want my kids to be loving. I want my kids to be free. I want them to. You should trust people.
Yes.
You should trust people, but I feel like I was instilling a lot of fear in them because of my trauma, and I just didn't want it to happen to them. So then I kind of turned the tables after letting it go, and I just said, if this were to happen, we have to have a close relationship where you come and tell me. And then it became more where they were a little bit more open. And just knowing that if anything were to happen, it's not your fault. Because sometimes bad things happen to good people. And my children are good people. But I had to just say that and then just let it go. And when my son said, like, you know, like, Taliah's a girl, you know, a little baby, 1.5 years old. I guess I just always kept saying things to him about, you know, whether she was sitting on his lap or playing with him, whatever. I had to realize what I was doing, and I was making him paranoid to touch her because of it's kind of sick, but it's just like that trauma is a real thing that nobody really talks about. And it kind of like fucked me up in the head. Like, I'm like super paranoid. Not saying like I ever looked at my son like that, but just always looking at everybody. Like, and I'm like, what's really, like, what's wrong with me? Like, it really took a fucking toll on my head, you know? But when he actually was able to trust me to say how he felt, it released something in me where it was like he put up a mirror. See, if he kept it to himself, I wouldn't have known what I was doing. But he said, Mom, this is how you're making me feel. Like playing with my niece, like I'm a pet. This is how you're making me feel. And I'm like, wow. Like, I have to do better. And that's recently. So I think it's still every day is a progress. And you continuously have to pray and seek your own healing, your best way. So I don't want to portray myself as 100% healed, but it's a work in progress. But I knew the turning point for me where I really had to let it go is when, you know, I just started feeling like I was instilling too much fear in my daughters. Where they were starting to become scared of everybody. And I realized even then, so I started, you know, like, I have to let this go so my children can be healthy.
Yes. And you, Tia?
Crazy thing is, it's like the same thing because so you guys know Faith, her father's family is in Boston. And so when she got to the age where like she was able to talk and stuff, like I would ask her like, you know, who gave you a bath? Did they do X, Y, and Z to you? And she's like 3 at the time, and it's like I shouldn't be asking my 3-year-old like, did somebody touch you? But that's how I felt. Like I was scared for my like same situation. Like I was scared. Like did Grandpa touch you? Did Uncle touch? Like, but I'm asking a 3-year-old this, and that was one thing. And so me like having my own children and my fear of something happening to them. But not only that, I think like one of my biggest reasons was is like it's a lot of people out there going through this. Like it's a lot of people going through this or who have been through this. Like I worked with at-risk youth when I was in Boston, you know, when I had Faith. And it's like so many people go through this and they bottle it up. Like when it happened to me, so you know, I don't know if you guys see my first episode. You know, I told it was a foster brother that, you know, my parents had brought into the house. And you know, us growing up in New Calvary, it was like those was our siblings. Like when they brought somebody in the house, those was brothers and sisters. Like it was blood. It was blood. Same mom, same dad. It wasn't foster. It was same mom, same dad. And so this was somebody I trusted. This was somebody that if I was going out and I was being bothered, it was like I would call my brother. I would call, and I am comfortable now. I would call Glendon. I would call Glendon and Glendon because he was the biggest one out of everybody. I would call Glendon. Glendon would come whoop your ass. And you were supposed to be my protector. And not only did it happen in my house, it happened in my church. So you took the 2 safest places from me, my house and my church. And those is those was the places that I was supposed to feel the safest, and you took that from me. And there's so many people going through that, and I was like, I know how I felt. Like, I tried to commit suicide 3 times in my life, 3 times, all behind that, because it was like I never felt complete, I never felt loved, I felt dirty, I felt ashamed, I felt so many different things, and it was like I felt like, you're not worth anything, you're not even worth living, like, why am I living? And so I tried to commit suicide 3 times, and it was like, it's so many people going through what I'm going through, and not for nothing, the first time I tried to commit suicide, I took 40 sleeping pills. And I woke up that next morning and I was like, I'm still here. I just, I got nauseous, I threw up, and I'm like, why am I still here? And now it's like, you're here because I'm gonna give you the strength to get through it. Like, you've been through it, and I put this back, but I'm gonna give you the strength to get through it so you can help other people. And that's what really gave me the strength to even be able to tell my story in public, because I know it's not just about me. God, like, and I told people, like, I used to tell God, like, I hate you for putting me through this. I hate that you allowed this man to put me through this. I hate that you allowed X, Y, and Z. Like, I'm a pastor's daughter. How, me of all people, how can you allow me to go through it? Like, I hate you for that. But then I got to a point where it was like, and I told you guys, I thank you for it, because you stuck by me. You gave me that strength that when I was at my lowest and I said I'm not loved, I'm not anything, you showed me you are. And it was never about me. It was always about the strength that he gave me to help everyone else who went through it, everyone else who was too scared to speak, everyone else who felt like they had no one else, everyone else who felt like I'm alone, because you're not alone. You're not alone. And he gave me that strength to help other people. And that's like really why I wanted to start this whole platform, is because, I'm not truly healed, but I have forgiven. I can say I forgive my abusers. I forgive everyone who's ever, made me feel that way. And I looked at my story as, now I want to help everyone else who's going through what I'm going through.
You're like answering all of my questions before I can even ask them. But I wanted to tell my god sister that she's so beautiful.
Thank you.
And I love her so much. And Taliah, you're so beautiful.
Thank
you. And thank you so much for sharing your story. You both are so beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm so excited that I get to sit on the couch with them. Like, listen, this is like more than you guys would understand.
Yeah.
But okay, this is my god sister. She has known me before I was even here in this earth for my entire life. So this is like really, I'm so like honored to be a part of this whole podcast.
I'm honored to have you here.
Yeah.
And for everyone who saw it in the first podcast, like, Ericka was one of the first people in my church that I opened up to everything about.
Wow.
And when I told her everything, like, she motivated me so much, one, to get out of that dark place and to share my story, to not feel ashamed, to not feel dirty, to, like, you have a testimony, and you're gonna help so many people. Her and Andrea. Andrea's not on camera, but she's right here. She's in the background. But them two, my cousin Taliah, like, they gave me the courage to say, and what is it? I'm not a what? I'm not a victim.
You're not a victim.
Yes.
You're a survivor.
Yes, you are.
And I felt like
you
a
are.
victim a lot, but now it's like, no, I'm not a victim.
Mhm.
I'm a survivor.
Turn your
We're all-
pain into purpose.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. So we heard from both Taliah and Tia how their past trauma has affected their life. Tia, also thank you for sharing why you are. I love them so much. Thank you for sharing why you have decided to become public about your healing, because I know there's like this really ugly stigma that you shouldn't like say anything, like, or if it happened like years ago, why would you wait so long to say
Right.
anything? Like, there's just this really negative and nasty stigma on survivors and how they should let things go, or they should just, like, as Taliah was speaking about, drop charges or just let things go. And I feel like so easy. So usually it's easy for people from the outside to just be like, oh, just let it go. Like I said before, just let it go. Like, it's not. But as we've heard from both of these beautiful women, that trauma has affected their whole life. And it's taken them such a long time to just like open their mouths and say out of their mouth what has happened to them. So many times they've probably played this in their head. Like, they played the scenario in their head so many times without even like verbalizing what happened to them. So just being able to like open your mouth and say like, this happened to me, and I know that this happened to me, and I am not a victim. I am a survivor. And knowing that God every single day will give you the strength to continue to go on, because he has put you in those positions, put you in those situations. I know it's like really terrible to feel like, oh, God is the author of all of our lives. He knows everything that is going to happen, every trauma, every pain, every cry, every hurt that we are going to feel before we're even here. So God has put these women through situations that they suck, but because they can, so that God can have the glory and so he can have the victory after. It's not about them. It's not about what their story was given to them by God. The reason why you guys are able to share this story is because it happened, and we knew it was, well, God knew it was going to happen from the beginning. So just like, again, I can't stop saying thank you to you guys, because I'm like sitting over here and I'm just like, yes, like I really am, because I'm a child social worker, like I said, and I sit with children like almost every day, and I hear them talk about traumas and things that we may not feel are that big, as, you know, being abused by someone, but traumas that can turn into the same kind of feelings that they've had for their whole entire lives. It may have not been the same situation, they may have not experienced the same thing, but children, like almost every day I hear children tell me of just like crazy stories, and I'm just like, what? You did what? And that happened? Like, it's mind-blowing to me. And I love to hear people's stories, because I love to support people in whatever it is that they want to do. Like, anytime you turn around, I'm right here. Like, that's how I am. I'm just like I'm right here. And anytime you want to turn around, I'm right here. And I love to be that support, because I may have not been through this trauma, but I know that something else that I may have been through that's very painful to me, I know that my sisters would have my back, and that they would support me in whatever I need. And so I'm supporting them in whatever they may need on this journey. I'm publicly letting you guys know that, and whatever you guys need on this journey. I love you guys so much. I love you, Taliah. You're all over here. I love you. Thank you so much. And